Okay. So just to give you some context, Tableau Next is one of a suite of analytics products offered by Salesforce. If you've used Tableau in the past, you're most likely aware of Tableau being acquired by Salesforce a few years ago. Salesforce also has some other analytics products, one of which is, again, now known as CRM Analytic. If you've been around Salesforce for a while, you might have heard it called Einstein Analytics and Wave. That's been through a few different branding changes over the years, as Salesforce has added additional features and themes and that sort of thing. Um, so you have Tableau and you have CRM Analytics, CRMA for short. And Tableau itself has multiple types there. You have Tableau Desktop, you have Tableau Server, and Tableau Cloud. And the two are have a lot of similarities in terms of some of the features and some of the target personas and use cases and that kind of thing. But Tableau started off running on its own. It's got its own run times, its own cloud versions, and that kind of thing. And you can be using Tableau without being a Salesforce user. So it's not like we suddenly said you have to be a Salesforce user to use everything that's in Tableau, even though it's part of the Salesforce suite of products. And then there's lots of integration points you can use between Salesforce and Tableau. The Tableau itself can obviously integrate with pretty much anything. It's really good at integrating all sorts of different data sources. Tableau Next is a new product. It's been out for, I guess, coming up on a year in terms of general availability. And it's being built by a lot of the same people who originally designed Tableau and CRM Analytics and Salesforce itself. So it's a fairly big initiative to try to bring all the great things that people love about Tableau onto the Salesforce platform, and also leverage things like what's called the Data 360, also known as Data Cloud, to allow you all sorts of flexibility when it comes to working with the data. So what you'll see today is focused on Tableau Next. We might touch on Tableau and other things as well. This is mainly around Tableau Next, but for the hackathon, you can use any of the Tableau family of products. You can certainly use server, desktop, cloud, etc., and now Tableau Next. If you look at the rules, there's ways for you to get evaluation versions and trial orgs and that kind of thing, so you can get set up for it. And I was also looking for do you have some ideas around interoperability between them? That's a big thing for us, which was be able to use the data from one on the other as seamlessly as possible. And we'd love to have your feedback. I'm on the product management team, so as you're building out entries for the hackathon, certainly let us know what you like, what you don't like, what features you would like to have, and that sort of thing. We're very interested in hearing your feedback. Boom. I don't know how many of you know Salesforce. We're not going to have a big Salesforce tutorial today, but I'll show you a few things. You're probably, you certainly probably heard about Salesforce. You may have seen it, used it, and you may have used it, in fact, in places and didn't realize that was Salesforce. It's actually used to power a lot of the websites that are out there. A lot of things you think about for, customer management, for sales, for service, are powered by Salesforce. It's kind of under the covers for a lot of things. And it's a cloud-based solution. In fact, it was on the cloud before the cloud was popular, one of the phrases we like to say. That being said, it's not a direct one-for-one equivalent to, say, something like, AWS. It has, some similarities in places, but it's not meant to be a general purpose cloud in the exact same way. It's actually aimed at, business users in many cases. It's aimed at app deployment, aimed at admins. You don't have to be a so-called full stack developer to use Salesforce. It's got a lot of nice, low code, no code type options. That being said, we also support the developer persona. So there's plenty of integration points. There's APIs. You can use REST. You can use third-party libraries to connect to it. It supports all the standard authentication protocols, OAuth, SSO, etc. So it does, integrate with whatever you like. But just keep in mind that you're not going to be going to Salesforce and deploying a Node.js application, things like that. It's not a general purpose cloud in that sense. So this is the Salesforce setup. we're not going to go into details here, but there are pieces of this you may eventually get into. And you can see here things like data clouds and Tableau Next. And these all have, screens for you to go in and enable things and set them up. We have tutorials for this. A lot of the times, the demo orgs that you get will probably have a lot of this already set up or provisioned, as we like to say. So you shouldn't have to go in and do a bunch of extra work setting these things up. But if you do, it's typically, one click, just turn things on, set things up, and, basically assign users and that kind of thing. But again, that's for a different day. If you are interested in learning a lot about Salesforce, there's Trailhead, and this is a great site for you to go and learn about anything you can imagine on Salesforce. Go in here and you can sign up for free, and then you can search for all the different products and features and that kind of thing. One of these has, tutorials, guides, quizzes. There's certainly things like, badging and that kind of thing. So it's meant to be kind of a fun way to learn it. And it's great for, learning it to also, for your career growth. If you want to, add this to your list of things on your resume, this is a great way to learn about it. And again, everything is free. You can get, free access to orgs, all the different docs and that kind of thing. So, inside of Salesforce, this is Tableau Next, and a lot of the Salesforce products will have their own homes, as we like to call them. So, they're looking at the Tableau Next home in this case. And it's not exactly like Tableau, but you'll find a lot of similarities. You may have been familiar with Tableau if you've used that before. This is, my own kind of demo space for it. So there's a lot of things that are similar, although some of the naming is different, some of the navigation is different. So just keep that in mind. That's not necessarily a one-for-one mapping. So to get started, let's show you a few things here. Data is kind of the key for a lot of these things. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and create a new workspace here. Let's create the workspace, and this just gives me a way to organize my data. So we'll call this Discord session. Doesn't really matter. You can call this whatever you want to. This is just your way to do it. And let's, connect to some data. And we can, use existing data that I already have, or we can connect to something new. And I'm going to do something very simple and just upload a file. And this is Superstore. You may be familiar with this from Tableau, Superstore orders. I'm going to upload the CSV here. And what this is going to do is let me go in and create something for a semantic model. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and create the semantic model. And we'll use the default data space. A data space is just an organization piece. For the most part, you'll have default in all of your orgs. There may be other data spaces, but you shouldn't have that in your demo orgs. And what we're going to do here is let it create a semantic model for us. And we're not going to spend a lot of time today creating a really amazing semantic model, but for your hackathon entries, that's one area for you to really explore. This is where you can go in and you can do a lot of the things on the, how do you turn this into a great analytics data set? As you may know, a lot of times the raw data from data sets needs to be tweaked in some way to make it great for analytics. This can be, adding additional fields. It can be defining relationships. There's a whole host of things you might want to do. This tool will be familiar to many of you if you've ever used other tools for what some call ELT. We got the whole notion of how do I ingest something? How do I transform it? How do I, make it available? If you look at products like Tableau and CRM Analytics, they have, notions of bringing the data in and doing all the transforms and then creating a idealized data set. And then on the flip side, you have your visualizations. You have business and metrics and dashboards and that sort of thing. And those are oftentimes, querying the backend data. They're querying these data sets, and you might have logic in the query layer. The semantic model gives you a way to do a lot of these in kind of a real-time fashion. and it added additional meaning to it. So it's a very powerful way to work with analytics. There's some tutorials on this. You may want to read through this, but this is where you would do a lot of the work you might have traditionally done in something like ELT. And somebody's writing the ETL. I know people use different phrases for it. We call it ELT. I know some say ETL, so it's the same thing. Um, and then what I'm gonna do here is like create a new metric for it, and we'll just call this demo. And here, find a measure. If we want to look at maybe let's look at quantity, and we might want to add time for the order date. Let's see if this creates something interesting. We're not like worried about how meaningful it is. It's more like just to add something kind of fun for it to show. We could put additional dimensions on this, like a customer name. Maybe you have the order ID, that sort of thing. And then I'm going to leave this as is. You can again tweak and tune this. There's lots of ways for you to customize this and save it. Now, the metric here is associated with the semantic data model. So it's actually in this list of metrics inside here. And then we're typically going to use this metric in some sort of visualized form. So let's go back, and I'm going to close out my other demos here just so it keeps it simple. And we'll say here, let's add a dashboard. And we have some options here. You can use something called Marketplace to browse dashboard templates. There's, I think, 3 or 4 of these you'll find out of the box. You can also create your own dashboard templates. And I'll tell you that this is a cool hackathon area because the templates give you a way to let someone else reuse your creations. If you're familiar with things like Tableau Public and Tableau Exchange, it's sort of a step in that direction to give you a way to reuse these for Tableau Next. And these can be the dashboards and even the mappings onto things like the SDM. So it's a very powerful way for you to build reusable apps. I'm just going to create a blank one to get started. And let's go ahead here and add the metric in place. And let's pick the metric that we were just playing with, select it, and it's got the customer and order ID. That's fine. And we'll see the metric that we were just playing with inside there. And let's add in a list. And I'm going to try putting in the customer ID I think we were using. And then preview this. See if this will actually select something. That must not be a good customer to select. Let's kind of filter on that, but we have to know the right customer data. Let's try this. And what was when we filtered on as well? Products ID, order ID. That doesn't have a data to be interesting. Let's pick a few of these. And you can see here we can build this up. Obviously, order ID is not a great one because it doesn't have a meaningful name, but you can basically filter on whatever you'd like to for these fields. And you notice here you're flipping between edit and preview mode. Obviously, edit is dragging and dropping, selecting, changing things. So again, it should feel very familiar to you if you've used Tableau, Power BI, and other tools. It's got a lot of similarities. If you haven't played with tools like that, it may take a second to get used to it, but it's pretty straightforward. It's basically adding in the objects. You can think of it as widgets, components, whatever you want to think of these as, and then you're setting attributes on this on the right hand side, so you can create this and tweak and tune it. And this is a great area for the hackathon, so you can really innovate and build out a really nice looking dashboard experience. There's also visualizations. So pick one of these in, and this is where you can actually use your own chart types. So I'm going to say add visualization, and let's pick all workspaces. Let's see if we can find something here. Let's say create new one. We'll use Superstore orders. And again, this is be very similar to what you might have seen in Tableau. But you pick something. Let's just throw some things in here and see what happens. Pick this, and then we'll pick maybe the quantity. So, and we can change the chart types and play with it if we continue. And again, if you're familiar with Tableau, you'll certainly use this for figuring out how you want to play with it. If you haven't used it, it's pretty straightforward. You can see here rows and columns, and you can add additional fields to it and that kind of thing. So feel free to drag things in as needed, and you may be able to go in and pick different chart types. I don't know if this is going to actually is anything useful here. There we go. So again, you play with this, and each of these typically will let you change all the different attributes on it. You see here color, size, labels. So you have a lot of things you can play with. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time today on each of these, but you have a lot of flexibility as to what you want to show and how you want to visualize it. If you do know Tableau, you may find that there's things that are not exactly a one-for-one mapping, and there's certainly not quite as rich a set of visualizations and so forth. This is one area that we're working on the product side to get it out there as quickly as possible. But if you've used Tableau and feel like you can't do something, don't feel like it's your problem. It's probably the fact that it just hasn't been implemented yet. But if there's things you'd like to see, again, we'd love to hear about it, as part of the hackathon. Say, "Hey, I was trying to do this and couldn't get this to work," that kind of thing. Save that, go back to our dashboard. Now we see the viz rendering inside here. Again, redo this, we can do the same sort of thing we were doing before. We're just hoping some of these things make sense. We'll just randomly foam in here, like so. So you can see everything's fully interactive. And again, you have a lot of flexibility for size, layouts, colors, all these different things. So feel free to change those as needed. Um, I'm not going to go in and show you every aspect, but you can figure most of these out just by looking over at this side thing. What you have in terms of attributes. And again, you can tweak and tune these. You can certainly add additional text, labels, whatever you want to inside it. And then, when you save it, this makes it available for others to use. I should probably give it a different name because I probably have used new dashboard multiple times. So probably this Discord dashboard. So, and what we're doing here is basically saying, make this available for anybody who wants to use it. The share button is interesting because by default, you may be the only person that can access it. So if you have other people who are working with you, you can add this. A lot of times in your demo orgs, you probably won't have more than one or two users, but if you do have a lot, you can share it. If you're very ambitious and want to really play with something cool, check out the embedding. And there's a tutorial as part of this hackathon on embedding. And this gives you the code you can use to embed this into a remote container. We've got several different examples of this. If you need help with it, certainly reach out to us. We would encourage you to play with this. And what you're basically going to do is you're going to set up what's called a connected app between Salesforce and the remote container. So this can be, Node.js running on Amazon. It could be other third parties, pretty much anything. And what you're going to effectively do is set up the connection between them. And this involves things like, certificates and keys, things you're no doubt familiar with. And basically, once you set it up, you're going to add this code on the remote side, and it will handle all of the interchange. We've got, again, tutorials for how do you set up the different URLs and services and that kind of thing. And then once it's embedded, you can use it remotely and actually interact with it using an SDK. So you have an API for it. And again, if you come from the Tableau world and have used Tableau embedding, it's similar in many ways to that. It's actually inspired by the same basic ideas. So again, I would encourage you to play with that. This is probably one of the places that has a lot of a hackable surface, as you might want to think of it. Okay, so once this is in place, you can use this. You'll see it here. You can embed this into Salesforce itself as well. So if we go here, I'm gonna go into here to that builder. It's gonna call a Lightning app builder. And let's just see if we can remember exactly how to create a quick Lightning page for it. So, Salesforce has a technology called Lightning, and you'll hear about this used in a very broad sense. It's a platform, and it also defines the type of components that you can use. We have what's called Lightning Web Components. This is a form of web component that runs inside of Salesforce. These have, a JavaScript API. They have HTML markup. They use CSS. They're very standardized, and they can run inside of the platform. And a lot of the things you see in a Salesforce app are powered by these Lightning Web Components. There's another technology that's a little bit older called Aura that's still in place. So you may see references to Aura and LWC, but they're basically how do you do the web components on top of Salesforce. Let's go ahead and create a app page. We'll just stick it in there. It'll ask me to give it a label. We'll call it the Discord app. And an app page in this case is pretty much a standalone page. Salesforce can have pages that are, inside of another app that are standalone. You have a lot of options around it. Again, just, read the tutorials or do the trailheads and it'll teach you about this. And you can pick various layouts and you'll recognize this sort of thing from other tools. And what you're doing is getting to basically a drag and drop interface. And we're going to go here and get a Tableau Next dashboard we can see here. And you see here we have Tableau Next, following, metric, and viz. So we have different levels of embedding. And I'm going to put the whole dashboard we've been playing with here. And it by default finds the most recently used dashboard, which is the Discord dashboard. So it'll put that in place and it'll render it here. And you have some settings inside of this that you can use to change it. That height's probably kind of small, so let's make it like, I don't know, 600 or so. And it's actually not high. Let me go see 800 by that. So this is now going to be embedded into a page, and you can add additional components here. And Salesforce has lots of different things inside it for viewing records, for doing interactions, for chatting. It's got a whole lot of things that you can use to build it, and you can use it to interact with these dashboards as well. So the main page can be whatever you'd like to. I'm not going to make anything really fancy right now due to time, but basically you save it and you activate it. Activate means make it available for others to use. And we'll just leave it as Discord app. Let's give it to all users. We'll say skip and save. Let's go back. Let's add this to my, it's a good one here. Let's add it to my sales app here. And we're going to go here and do save. And I'll show you what this looks like in Salesforce itself. So go here, and this little icon here gives you a list of all the apps, and pick sales. This is my Discord app now. Dismiss that. And this is the dashboard we'll play with. So it's a live embedding. And, we have other pages that have been built by teams inside of Salesforce, built by users. And as you can see here, these all have different levels of, lists and that kind of thing. You can use navigation. You can dig into this. You can make things interactive. There's a whole slew of things for how to work with things like events and actions and that kind of thing. One of the things that people love inside of Salesforce is what's called the actionability. And you can do this inside of the Tableau Next dashboards and business as well. And the basic idea there is that when you're looking at the analytics for something, you can take action on it. The reason this is important is because what I call the multiple navigation problem, what I think a lot of people call swivel chairing, and you've probably all done this, where you're looking at something. It's an amazing dashboard. It gives you some great insights. You're like, oh, I want to do something because this has told me something about the data. And then you have to go open up another window, and you have to browse and search, and you're trying to find the very thing you were just looking at. And that's sometimes very difficult, if not impossible. So with Salesforce, we try to make it so that when you're looking at something and you want to take some action, you can do so. There's a bunch of things around actions. We've got pre-built actions that come as part of the product. We also have a flow builder, so you can do some very cool actions, and you can write your own code. You can integrate with things. There's a whole rich array of things. So when you're looking at the hackathon, think of all the things you can do that enhance these analytics solutions, analytics apps, and that kind of thing. So it's not just, hey, I built a cool biz, hey, I built a cool dashboard. It's like, hey, I can actually do something with it. And that's something we would encourage you to play with. What that basically means is when you are in action, it takes that object that you're working with and lets you do something to it. You can do an update. And the reason this is important again is that reduce the swivel sharing, and make it so that somebody who's also like on a mobile device can easily do stuff. You know how painful it is to try to switch back and forth and mobile because you really have the tiny screen real estate. So what you're doing is basically saying, "Hey, let me take action. I'm the service person in the field with my tablet, or I'm a sales guy with my phone, and I want to take action on it." One area that I haven't touched on a ton, but I think you'll get a kick out of is being able to use agents. And you hear a lot about AI and agents and that kind of thing. And Salesforce has a really cool feature called Agent Force. And this actually is built into the product. Something went wrong. Refresh the conversation and try again. We'll try this and see. Well, it should be letting me work. So I must be hitting a bug or something. Sorry about that. But this normally would let me have a conversation with it. Something is amiss. Nope, is that cool? Let me try a different app and see if it's maybe my data set that it doesn't like. Let's go to Sales Cloud test. Let's see if it'll work on this one. Nope. Well, the demo gods have gotten us today, so sorry about that. But with Agent Force, if I wasn't hitting this bug, you'd be able to basically ask questions about the data. And let me try one more app that I've got. Let's see if it works here. Not every one of these has got some kind of issue. Well, the basic idea is to make it conversational. And what you do is you have the agent on the page you're working with, on the dashboard in this case. And it will basically set the target of the agent to be the current dashboard, and most importantly, the underlying semantic data model, the SDM. And when you ask questions, it uses that as the primary context, so the primary data source. And you'd be able to ask it, for example, on this one, this is a mobile operating system. This is a really old data set, by the way, so this is not accurate. But you could say things like which mobile operating system has the highest adoption rate, and it will answer that question for you in a conversational form. And so it's similar to what you've probably seen with ChatGPT and tons of other products, but it's in the context of Salesforce, and it's on the actual data you're looking at. So it's answering it based upon what's in your org, what's in your data, and it's not as generic as some of the other AIs, which are basically looking at the broad internet. This has pros and cons, and the pros are that it's for your data, and companies can trust Salesforce with their data. We're not taking data and putting it into some generic tool. We're not reading it. We have some very strong rules about customer trust, and you can be assured your data is not going to end up in some LLM or something that where you don't want it to be. The cons are that you're looking at your data primarily, and it's not necessarily the broader internet. So you may get a very different set of results here. So you can actually tell it to look beyond that. You don't have to constrain to just your data set, but just keep in mind that we've designed some of these things with our customer base in mind and with our data. Um, that's it. Questions. I know we're um, looking at I'll be having a few more minutes left. Should we open this up for questions, or you guys want me to show something else? Oh, before I forget, we have some great tools inside of VS Code that are for Salesforce. There's agents. There's lots of plugins, extensions. If you want to do development, I would encourage you to play around with what's called Agent Force Vibes. Install the extension. Um, it has an MCP server. You can attach other MCP servers. If you're not familiar with that, it's basically a way for these uh, agentic, generative tools to communicate with each other. It's sort of on top of a REST server. It gives you, some standard protocols for it. If I've used this recently to generate things like Lightning Web Components, and even had it generate a interaction with a Tableau server from Salesforce. And I told it to use my personal access token, and it figured out how to write all that code. So I was impressed. I would encourage you to play with that. Certainly, in this day and age, anything you do in the hackathon that incorporates AI, whether it's generative or it's agents and that kind of thing, would get people's attention. But definitely look into it. Vibe coding has a lot of interest lately, and basically, letting you work with it to do things that you would ordinarily have to spend a lot of time on. I also recently I saved a ton of time not having to cut and paste and read and that kind of thing. It's not always perfect. You can also sometimes get code that is buggy, sometimes code that doesn't even compile. And sometimes code is just bad. As you all know, AIs really aren't intelligent. They're really just like the world's best, summarization, plagiarism engines. So just keep that in mind. It's the watch, but it's only as good as the source material it has. That being said, it impressed me that it was doing some of the boilerplate stuff that can be painful to do. What it can do is it lets you focus on building out your cool hack and not having to do some of the low level integration type work. So definitely check that out. And then as you're working through the hackathon, ask questions. If you guys are having trouble with something, can't get something to work, ping us and let us know. We'll certainly try to get you over the hump. But again, I would encourage you to just play a bit. Hackathons oftentimes you may think, "Oh, I'm going to build this type of demo," but you may find it easier to start playing with it, and something will emerge from that. You'll find, "Hey, I can actually do this thing over here that's actually cooler than my original design." So be flexible around that. Again, be creative. Try things out. Um, Let us know if you have any questions. Um, that's just a question. So yeah, we can take
Oh, yeah.
out what is the last few minutes here.
Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah. So I was just saying, if anybody had any questions, just for Skip on the kind of like content that he shared, or about specifically using Tableau Next, now is a good time to share that in the chat. Let's give it like a minute or so to see if anybody has something. Don't be afraid to ask questions, guys. Like Thomas is typing.
Yeah. So poking at looking at the metadata here. So let me show you something. When you're working with VS Code here, there's a extension that lets you basically say pull the metadata down. And look here, there's a package XML. These are where you put in the metadata types in Salesforce. And I'm only pulling down a few. You can pull down anything you can imagine. And for each of these, you'll get the actual metadata for the piece. And then you can work on it in code and then upload it. And if you look at these, Salesforce has a few things you may find interesting. Like a class, in this case, it's Apex class. And, as I mentioned the other day, I use this to generate this Tableau service, and so this was generated by Agentforce, and I'm now playing with it here. It's called my Tableau service, and it looks a lot like Java. It's not exactly Java, but it's very similar. So, if you haven't played with it, just keep in mind that it's not quite the same as Java, but this is the standard server-side language for Salesforce. Additionally, I mentioned the web components, LWCs, Lightning Web Components. And these are some of the things that either I've built or have been generated. And each of these has HTML markup, has JavaScript, CSS, and then this is the actual metadata. And not to give you a full tutorial, but this tells you what you can do with it. So when you want to target things like that Lightning app builder, you have to put in the Lightning app page, home page, record page, etc. And again, there's tutorials on all this. This is telling Salesforce what you want to do with it. And you can also expose attributes and that kind of thing. And then the templates that I mentioned from Marketplace give you a sort of sanitized representation of a dashboard. So this is a dashboard here. And you can look through this and see this is a very simple one. But it also has a set of rules around it that lets you create the dashboard. You can set up rules that tell it to modify something, modify colors and that kind of thing. So all those templates we saw in Marketplace can be done in this way. Some things will be in text. It'll be some things will be in JSON, some things will be in XML. It really kind of varies with the type, but you have full control over it, and you can modify it and then push it back to the server. So if you want to take this and store it inside of it, there's also REST APIs. There's certainly better tools, but I'm familiar with Workbench, so I'm going to show you this. I'm going to log in here. Um, And what I'm gonna do is go to the REST Explorer, and that lets you get to pretty much everything inside of Salesforce. And let's put in the more recent API version at 64. Okay. Did I not do for app framework templates? So I'm missing the templates used for Marketplace. You can browse this, and each of these has things like, this is obviously some of my demo stuff. And there's a lot of times deep links into the URL itself, and you can go here and look at this and dig into it, see if any of these have anything useful that you want to play with. So it's a full API. There's REST APIs, there's metadata APIs, there's what's called a tooling API. If you haven't played with Salesforce before, some of it may seem a little different, but it's all there. It's got the full uh, suite of tools. So you have multiple ways to work with it. And um, you can go build almost anything you can imagine here. You can work with the metadata for the Tableau assets, also for the standard Salesforce assets and that kind of thing. So Agentforce was like an extension. It's actually a full product stack, and it uses several different AI technologies to provide that agentic interface. And Agentforce itself has multiple templates, but it's not just a template. In fact, Agentforce is used throughout the entire Salesforce product line these days. And it gives you a way to interact with things through the agentic interface and through a conversational interface, as opposed to the traditional UX navigation. And the Agentforce Vibes is a plugin or an extension for um, VS Code that worked with our Agentforce technology. And this has generative tools. You can tell it things like create a LWC to show hello world. This is going to work very well, but we'll see what it can do here. But it'll start generating all the code for me. You need to probably understand a bit about the platform to have the correct kind of prompts, but it's going to tell you what it's going to build, and it'll tell you everything that's doing and gives you explanations for it, that kind of thing. So it's a lot of fun. If anything, it's a great way to learn. But hey, help me do something. Show me how to do something. And then once it's in place, you can tweak and tune it. You can say, hey, change the color of this to red, or use this attribute to map to this, or create a mapping from A to B. It'll build all those things for you. It'll generate the JavaScript and that kind of thing. So we can say save this and save that. I'm not really reviewing it. I'm just going to assume that it's all working pretty well. Save that. And approve. Store does not have source tracking enabled. Well, I don't know exactly what that's telling you right now, but uh, just to prove it anyway. And again, like anything with your generative technologies, you could probably mess something up if you didn't pay attention to it. So I'm, kind of messing around here. But I go back here. Here's the hello world it created. I'm going to say deploy this source to org. And this will tell me it's going to deploy it. Might take it a second to do the OAuth hop and get going, but there we go. So let's go back to this dashboard. And we're going to say add a component here. And I might need to refresh this. Let's add a Lightning Web component. Yeah, I got to refresh this page to get it to pick up that. It has a refresh button. And then we see our hello world has been added here. There we go. It's going to take it a second to give me the thing back. We'll say hello world. And that's the one we just generated. So I didn't write any code for that. It built the whole thing for me. You can go back here now and look at it, and you can see the JavaScript it created, the HTML, the metadata, and then build it from there. And you could tell it, hey, add a button for this, do this. It's pretty crazy. I would say definitely play with it. As you're doing it, part of your hackathon demo would be to explain, what you did there, what was generated, what kind of prompts you use, what kind of results, and that kind of thing. But this is a big time saver. It's the type of thing where you can take this and cut and paste it. You can go to Stack Overflow, that kind of thing, and find things and cut and paste and write it yourself. But this was pretty crazy for me to see how fast some of this is. Telling it now to add a button to it is pretty wild. We could spend all day doing demos to this. But add a button to print or to change a message to Devpost. Let's see if we can figure that out. So see, it's writing stuff here now, showing you the changes. That looks like it may be kind of wacky there. We'll see if that actually works here. So let's try to save that. Yeah, so it's figuring out the bugs and changing everything dynamically for me. Again, if you play with some of the Google and other tools, this is probably similar, but this is specific to the Salesforce world, which is pretty cool. So it knows our components and knows our metadata and that kind of thing.
Yeah, thank you. Basically, I think Thomas had a one more question here about the mentor sessions or contact validate the idea. So just really quickly, the hackathon did have some office hours, but I think the last one was on December 10th. But I know you guys do have a community on Slack that you guys are using for questions or just like general community building. So I'm going to share the resources page for the hackathon in the chat really quickly. And then for anybody who's like participating or looking to participate, you can use that to just like get more information. And obviously, if you register, if any session is coming up in the future, then the team will notify you. I think we are right on the clock.
Yeah, and we could do more office hours. I've even offered to the team to do another set in January, close to the hackathon. But with the holidays coming up, there's nothing's going to happen for the next probably couple of weeks. So maybe the second week of January, we could see about getting that going. Yeah, I'd do so. We've done 2 office hours now, and we can do a third again on permitting. Do reach out to us on Slack and so forth. Let us know.
Of course, yeah, and as I say, I just completely recommend signing up for the hackathon so that you get any updates about the challenge. in the future. And I mean, I'm super happy to go over the hackathon one more time. So this one final call out about the Tableau Next hackathon, and then I'll just drop this link in the chat. One final time, let me just pull this one up. Just so you guys can find it 1 second. So this is the link to the Tableau Next hackathon on Devpost. And then let's throw this in the chat right here. Okay, perfect. And then as I say, it's this challenge is about using Tableau to create something useful. So you can think about like internal tool, data powered apps, or ways teams can act on data. So yeah, the core goal is pretty simple: is building something practical with data. It's open to anyone. Feel free to just register on Devpost, and then you can actually you'll be able to access this workshop. You'll be able to access. I think you guys also did a next workshop, specifically for this hackathon. The deadline is going to be on January 12th. Don't wait last minute. And there's $45,000 in cash prizes up for grabs. Skip, thank you so much for your time and hosting this with our community, and thank you so much to everybody who joined us for the session today. As soon as we get this session edited, it'll be available in our events channel. Enjoy the rest of your week, everyone.
Thanks much, folks. Bye. Bye.